Shaw again, and I'm here with Carolina. Hi, Carolina, how are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's go
All
for it.
right. So, question number one: how do you plan on monitoring progress in diversity and lack of representation in Kent Union sports teams? And how can you ensure there will be improvement? It's not just empty promises.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason this came up is because at our most recent board meeting, we were delivered some data around EDI and our student groups and committees. And from that, we saw that sports was actually the area that was least diverse, which is really unfortunate to see. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So what Kent Union does every year is they collect data around EDI, which is how we'll be able to monitor any improvements, any changes, hopefully improvements, obviously, going forward. And the way to kind of influence positive change there is through the campaigns that we've been running so far around Rainbow Shoelaces, which is one that we delivered during LGBTQ plus History Month, and also throughout varsity with other officers. But most importantly, I'm getting involved with Kent Sports' new sports strategy. So this is something that's really brand new. Their last one has kind of run out. They've realized that it's not as effective as they'd like to be, and they're writing a new one. So in that, really making sure that students are at the center of the strategy, that EDI is at the forefront and not an afterthought, to make sure that everyone on campus feels like they're represented through the facilities, that they feel comfortable accessing the facilities, and that we can see more diverse student groups, especially our sports clubs.
Okay, that's really good. And you will ensure that there'll be improvements through
Absolutely.
this. Okay.
Yeah, we're actively feeding into the strategy. We've already had our first meeting.
Okay.
A lot of comments came up already, and
Okay.
I'm here to fight on behalf of students.
Okay.
As I'm, an officer that's on my way out, I've built up the confidence to really stand up for what I believe in, and really voice my opinions strongly, professionally, but strongly. And I know that it's the time to do that now.
Okay, that's really good to hear. So, can you break down the priorities in regards to content training for society committee members, and how will you ensure that all committee members are participating in this training?
Yeah, absolutely. So this priority came out of student safety on campus, concerns that our clubs and committees, but also just other students were raising around how they felt on campus. So I've been working with our Vice President for Welfare and Community to create a training, started last year, and we've also worked with the university's SSW, which is Student Support and Wellbeing Services, and we've created consent training that will encourage committee members to be able to support their student clubs on this more sensitive matter. And we've also been able to create with Mind, I think it's East Kent Mind, training around mental health support, because a lot of feedback we've received from committees is that they're not quite confidently equipped with the right information to support students in this sensitive matter. And the way that we're going to make it like compulsory is by putting it onto the dashboard. And in order to access functions like finance, which is something that all student groups do, they have to complete all of the training on the dashboard. And so until they've completed it, it will be locked. So that ensures all committee members to complete it. And we'll also be running committee training at the end of next term when new committees come in, and also in September. So there'll be opportunities throughout the year where we can not just bring in committee members, but also other members of our community on campus who are interested in this area, because really and truly, the more people are aware about it, how to look after themselves, but also look out for others, the better.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you. Well, so you guys have locked them out properly. That's actually
it's really
that's actually really good. It's a good tactic. So number 3, how can students access the activities fund and be made aware of it? And are there steps being put in place to ensure that it is easily accessible? The second part is quite important because a lot of students complain that some things are just not very easily accessible.
Yeah. So this year, that was my absolute key priority in light of the cost of living crisis. We realized that a lot of students are no longer able to participate in extracurriculars, and it's just such a shame that that element has to get neglected. So our access to activities application form previously required you to submit bank statements, lots of forms, and it was overly complicated. So what I did is I scrapped all of it. Now, all you need to do is go onto the Kent Union website, and it's a form where you can say what money you're applying for. So you can pick if it's Kent Sport membership, if it's a club membership, if it's kit equipment, or anything else. You just tick the box, and then you explain to us why you need the money and how it will support your experience at Kent. So it's really about making it as simple as possible, students to say, this is why I need the money. Like, I know I've got a part-time job, I can't take up more shifts because I've got lectures, and it's just a lot more human, it's a lot more personable rather than, having to submit bank statements. It's really alienating. So I think I'm really proud of that. And we already saw a massive increase in applications. We went from like 60 tops in previous years to almost 200 just by simplifying the process and shouting about it on our social channels. So next year, definitely we'll be hoping to get some more funding through the university too, to make sure that students can continue to access sports and student groups.
No, that's actually like this is my personal opinion, but that's actually really good because I remember a lot of people complain. Like
Yeah.
it takes a lot of courage to apply for it, and then you see this whole process, you just get discouraged.
Yeah.
So it's really good to see that you've managed to do this.
Absolutely. I think that people might be hesitant to apply because they think someone else is in a worse position, so they don't want to take up funding that could go towards other people. But really and truly, it's open to anyone, and I want to support as many people because I know how important it is to be a part of an extracurricular activity outside of your degree.
Okay, thank you. So, in your report, you mentioned that KU has opted for a new finance system provider. Can you explain what this means? What implications does it have for students and societies? And how do you ensure it will run smoothly before you leave?
This is something I'm extremely excited about. So the finance system has been just a recurring issue, even for me when I was a committee member years and years ago. It's complicated. It takes a lot of time, and it's not like up to date. It's not live. So you have to go to your coordinator, ask for your financial statements, and then they have to go to the finance department, and it takes forever. So with this new system in place, it will be launching in August. So unfortunately, I won't be here for the official launch, but I'm sure I'll be invited to the building when it does happen. Essentially, it's going to allow coordinators who typically would have to do a lot of admin to just make it a lot more easier, a lot more simpler. The layout is going to be just simplified significantly. It's going to be very automated. And fingers crossed, we'll be able to provide an app for students where they'll be able to look at their financial statements live there and then, see exactly how much they've got in their accounts, which is something they can't currently do without coming into the building. So first of all, like, that's great. No more student clubs should be going into debt when we've got that, because they'll know exactly how much they can spend. But on top of that, they'll also be able to put forward their reimbursement forms and other things that they would typically need staff support for. So it should be making everyone's lives a lot easier, which will free up time for our core team who deals with student groups to do less admin and more like visionary work around improving strategy and making our student groups develop and grow rather than trying to, do really boring day-to-day tasks. That's kind of the direction that the finance system should be taking us in.
Yeah, no, that's really good. All right. So we've got two submitted questions. I'm going to ask them. What happened to International Showcase?
This is something I'm extremely upset about. We typically have our international showcase at the end of World Fest, which was just a couple of weeks ago now. And it's been running for like 15 years, maybe even more than that. And there was no student interest this year.
Oh, okay.
I started advertising it in January at Big Fair. I spoke to so many student groups and they were like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. And then when it came round to, signing up, crickets, absolutely nothing.
Do you think this could be because of some other reasons? For example, lots of deadlines. Maybe it wasn't being advertised enough, and also maybe to be fair, I'm going to press on the deadlines there because it is quite deadline season. A lot of people have found their coursework much heavier this year as opposed to previous years. So do you think that could have had something to do with it? Do you think maybe it could have been rearranged, rescheduled, or there could have been alternative ways of reaching out to students about it?
I think in terms of reaching out, I did absolutely everything. I spoke to them in person. I was DMing them frantically. There was emails and emails and emails. So there was definitely communication going out. There was incentives too. There was like £500 in cash prizes to be won. And in terms of time frame, it's always at this time of year, and it's never been an issue before in the past. But I think I'm really curious to see to get some feedback from those cultural groups, especially if they would prefer to have it in term one. I would be more than open to rearranging it. It goes nicely with World Fest, but obviously if it happens, it's great. If it doesn't happen, then more than happy to move it around. We had our cultural food festival in November, and that had great turnout. That was wonderful. So it might be an idea to have them more closely together. something like that. I'm just really keen to get it running again next year.
Do you think you would get it running maybe in the third term? It will be exam season,
No,
but
engagement is really low with students in the
right
third
now.
term, and I wouldn't want to put that pressure on them to, learn a choreography and show up. It would be great because third term's a bit quiet in that sense.
Yeah.
But I think I would have to consult with student groups and just put something big into my handover to make sure that it does happen next year.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so what are your next steps in the next 3 months?
I've got some legacy projects coming up, hopefully. There's a lot of work to be done. Yeah, there's a lot of work
There's a lot
to be
of
done.
can
Yeah.
you give me like your 3 main steps?
3 main steps. So we've got Kent Sports Strategy.
Right.
The goal is to get some wins
Yeah.
that will be implemented from September. So really pushing that to them, I think, is going to be key. The finance system as well. We've got to make sure that it is the best for students as it can be. And then consent training, I think, is going to be a really big one. And just training new committee members that are coming in. And varsity and awards, oh my God, yeah. So there's a lot of events
happening.
coming
There's
up.
a lot happening.
March is really hectic. And then in April, I get to sit down and start planning my handover to make sure that the next Vice President for Student Engagement is ready to hit the ground running, which is also a pretty big piece of work because I've been in this job for 2 years now and it all comes so naturally to me. But when I think about when I started, it was totally crazy and overwhelming and chaotic, and you've got to learn super quickly. So I want to make sure I can help with that.
All right, so thank you so much. It was great speaking to you. All right, so this is Shah and
Carolina.
Thank you.
Yep.